So we've got all the functionality now to accept files to be dropped in our area, upload them via the API. Now we can output a thumbnail. The one missing piece of functionality now is to show any existing attachments. So what I want to do is go back to the HTML. We'll get rid of our placeholders. What we'll do is go back to our HTML and get rid of those placeholders. So this list we want empty to begin with. That's the equivalent of what we've just generated with our thumbnail variable. And finally, let's look to retrieve those existing files using Dataverse REST Builder. Okay, so back to Dataverse REST Builder. And what we want to do is retrieve some attachments. I'll add a new request to our collection, which is to retrieve existing note attachments. The request type is retrieve multiple. The table is notes. And two key things here is we want to make sure we're only getting those that are of type attachment. So the way we can do that with the filter is to say is document equals yes. And we only want those that are regarding our case. So again, we'll select any old case to give us a placeholder bit of code, and then we'll parameterize that. So I'm going to say where the regarding equals, and then within the lookup we can choose the table we want is case, and as I say, select any old case for now. And then the columns that we want to return, let's get the note GUID, that's going to be important, the file name, the MIME type is going to help us discern which thumbnail to output, so let's collect that. We want the document body. In fact, no, we don't. That's not going to be important because we're using that special URL to output the content. So that should be all we need actually. Again, over to the Portals tab to get our Portal Web API code. And it's a matter of copying this into a function, because remember, we want to be able to call it on demand, we want to be able to reuse this. So I'll copy that and then back in VS Code. So we'll create a new function. I'm going to call this one get existing attachments. At the time this runs, there's not going to be any existing notes, names, MIME types or anything like that, so we don't need to pass in any parameters. Nice and easy. All that we need to do is to say, first of all, which case should these be regarding. That's going to be the one in our URL parameter. So we access those, remember, from the liquid request.params, and the name of the parameter is ID. Finally, what do we want to do with any results? We want to generate a thumbnail. So we're calling our function that we created a moment ago, generate thumbnail, and we're going to pass that the annotation ID. So Guido's tool helpfully pops all that in variables for us already. We can just copy those in. So it's the GUID, then the file name, then the MIME type. Okay, all good. So let's recap that code all together. We're saying when the document first loads, so when the UI is ready for us to interact with, we want to take our HTML placeholder, our div that had an ID of drop zone, and attach some specific events to it. And the purpose of these drag over and drag leave was all about the styling, so to provide some visual feedback, which we did by applying a class called drag over or removing that class called drag over. When the files are dropped, that's when our real action starts. So we say get any files that were passed in with data transfer, loop over those, and what we're doing is reading those files. On successful read, this is what we wanted to do. So we grabbed the result of that file read, we removed that base64 prefix, and then for easy access we put file name, file type and file size in there as variables, and then we say we want to upload each of these files. So within this loop, call our upload function, which we created with Dataverse REST Builder, and we said we want to create these as notes regarding the current case that's on screen, so using the ID parameter in the URL. So we add that to the note table as a note attachment. Then on success of that, so for each of these calls we've got a success and an error function. On success we want to generate a thumbnail. That thumbnail is either going to be a preview of the image using our special URL, or it's simply going to output a Bootstrap file icon. We append those to the list, and generate thumbnail is going to work for us for our newly created notes, but also when the page first loads, we want to get any existing attachments and output those. So let's sync, preview and give that a try. So here we can see we get our existing files as thumbnails. Let's drag some images on there and see how our preview works. Okay, that was nice and quick.